everybody, this is Perch. I've done videos talking about the MCU versus the comic universe and kind of what the differences are between the two, what the differences in audiences between the two. And I noticed that people come into the comments and there is this tone to the people who watch the movies where the comic fans basically feel like the nicest way is like, oh, those are the normies that go to the movies. But it's often code or wrapped up in a lot of things like, the movie going audience are idiots. That group are people who are, they can't understand the complex, nuances of comics. They, something like a Days in the Future Past. It's like, there's no way a moviegoer could possibly think about time travel and its effects. I mean, this isn't a Marty McFly trying to bone his mom kind of situation. This is far more complex than that. I mean, Kitty Pryde is older, and she traveled back in time into another body of her younger self, and sure. But anyway, it's often described that way, and I don't think that's the case. I think the movie-going audience is probably a lot more sophisticated than people understand. They are also a lot more brutal than people realize. They're there for escapist entertainment. If the movie is dull, if it feels too preachy, if it doesn't land with them, they're out. The average movie-going audience is not going to be staring at that movie just waiting to get pissed off. Like, hey, did you see in Doctor Strange 2? America Chavez said she had two moms. Woke politics again. I'm out. I'm taking my popcorn back. I'm not putting up with this shit. No, because they're easily the movie-going audience is going to sit there and watch the movie and go, well, things are imploding, and it's an action film, and that's easily brushed aside. People might roll their eyes at it, but if the movie is entertaining, they're going to keep going. Likewise, nobody's going to that movie going, you know what, I hate every aspect about superheroes and magic, and I don't really like CGI films. I prefer introspective, documentaries. But this film did have a line, this one line in 5 seconds, talking about how one of the supporting characters in this movie had two moms, and that won me over. So I, as a proud LGBTQ supporter, I'm now all on board. They don't do that either. The movie's got to work on a bigger level. And by the way, Doctor Strange, I don't know if you've been watching kind of the numbers on all this. And Doctor Strange is making lots of money. Make no mistake about it. It's making, I'll get the box office numbers in a minute, but the week 1 to week 2 drop was 67%, which is a horrific drop of movies. So I'll give you an example. The Eternals, which came out with COVID, and so the diehards are going to go see the movie on week 1 and everything else. The Eternals dropped 61%. Doctor Strange 2 dropped 67%. This is that's a terrible drop. It doesn't, and as a tentpole film of the Phase 4 of the Marvel Universe, and first appearance of Patrick Stewart in this universe, and first Mr. Fantastic, and all the rest of this kind of stuff. That's rough. So you can't cry for you can't cry for Doctor Strange. It is doing just fine in the box office, but all the same, that's a rough drop. And I think with where Marvel had been going with the kind of Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Avengers films, and kind of how it all been stacked up, I mean, right now we're sitting at week 3.5, going on week 4. The movie has made $318 million domestic, worldwide, all in, meaning international plus domestic. It's at $731 million. Feels very unlikely it's going to do $1 billion. And for a movie that has all of that guest star and everything else, that's not great. Now, I do expect Thor: Love and Thunder to pass $1 billion. I think that's going to do good. Despite all the horrific kind of warning videos, people are going to show up and be in to see, what Natalie Portman Thor looks like and how that's going to go. They're going to be up for that. But here's a mail from a viewer that kind of has the same point of view. And it says, hey, Perch, I don't know if you share this experience or even this opinion, but I know a lot of hardcore comic fans who, for lack of a better word, want to gatekeep which stories make it to film. Okay. They'll say things like, I don't think MCU fans are ready for this storyline or character. Yeah, I definitely have heard plenty of that. I can remember people back in 2012 saying it was a mistake to build up Thanos as the main villain, that audience didn't really know him. That's true. A lot of, not Bleeding Cool, but Newsarama, CBR, they were also Screen Rant. They were talking about that. Like, the fans, the movie fans, there's no way they're going to understand a character like Thanos. That's too complicated. which they have done. There's several movie tropes, like, the movie audience can't figure that out. That's one that keeps coming. Another one is the very common, the superhero genre is dying. That we're about to see it. There's things that come up, and again, all that ignores the simple fact of make an entertaining movie. It works out. Pretty much the end. Likewise, sorry, back to the mill. Likewise, we had Ike out there suggesting moviegoers wouldn't be ready for a black superhero. That's thoroughly stupid. But both are pretty damn successful with audiences. Well, yeah, they were entertaining. Again, whether you liked Black Panther, whether you thought the white people would be racist and not go see Black Panther, or that Black Panther was an indication of wokeification of Hollywood, it's turned out when you sat down and watched Black Panther, it was pretty entertaining. And the story carried, and it had some action in it, and it was very much a classic Marvel vehicle, and so it made money. The end. Sorry, continuing in. I don't really buy most of this, says the person writing the mail. As far as audiences go, I think they're pretty open to anything at this point. Once you've seen Thor restart a sun and living planet, I think their minds are pretty much open to anything. There's stories like Crisis on Infinite Earths, where I can see an argument of, listen, logically this movie would be a nightmare. Well, it would be for casting. But that's nothing to do with audiences not having open minds or being receptive to this idea. What do you think? Is there anything you think audiences would find beyond the pale or inaccessible? Or do you think at this point they're down for anything? And for that matter, do you think character recognition matters much? Or do you think as long as writers do a good job, audiences will go along? Yeah, absolutely that second one. As long as the movie delivers on entertainment, meaning you're going to come in for 2 hours, we're going to take you to an escapist world that has crazy things, and it's going to feature things you can enjoy and cheer from. We're going to build up some tension, and then we're going to pay it off, and we're not going to preach at you too much. Then people will watch it. If, for example, in like Captain Marvel's or the Marvels or whatever the Captain Marvel movie is, if in that movie they come out and they decide that for big portions of the movie they want to make it about pro-choice and the fact that abortion laws are wrong, and also we need to start saving the environment and all that. If you turn it into Captain Planet meets Aaron Brockovich, and then you wrap it up like a MCU film, it's going to bomb. And it's not going to bomb because of woke politics or any of the rest. It's going to be bomb because it's going to be boring as hell. Nobody's going to go along with that. If you want to tie in some of these ideas, or some of these more complex things, or bring in characters nobody has ever heard of, or I was going to say go to a character in Captain Marvel's Rogue Gallery, but she really doesn't have one. But if you're going to, like Dr. Minerva, if you're going to bring Dr. Minerva in, Dr. Minerva is not going to sell ticket sales, but if Dr. Minerva does some pretty crazy evil things and is threatening, and Captain Marvel has to figure out how to stop her, and there's some tension there, and the movie has good pacing, it's going to be fine. People are going to come in, and it's going to make another $1 billion. It's really that simple. It has nothing to do with can audiences figure out that there's a talking raccoon. There were a lot of there's some people, the former editor guy or whatever, one of the leaders over at Newsarama was all in on like Groot and Rocket Raccoon are going to be inaccessible for normies. They're never going to be able to figure it out. And the second you get a sarcastic cursing raccoon and a tree that kind of murders people and then turns around and grins at you, it's fine. Moviegoers will be open for anything. And no, I've heard lots of people, and the biggest one I often hear is the Days of the Future Past. Like, there's no way moviegoers can possibly figure out that movie. But they'll be fine. We've seen dense time travel. We've seen Crisis on Infinite Earths. If you build that up with some tension and you have some amazing moments, fans will gobble that shit up. Now, it'll be a hard movie to make just because it's complicated and there's a lot of moving parts to it, but absolutely that movie will do fine. Any of these movies can do fine if they're really, if they work hard and they do a really cool job of them, they'll sell. I think that people have asked me, it's like, well, do you think that if they do a straight not straight America Chavez movie, if you do an America Chavez movie that's completely the Gabby Rivera series, that's going to bomb. Yeah, it's going to bomb because the series was boring. It's not made for movies. It has nothing to do with it's too hard to figure out. I mean, a lot of comic audiences couldn't figure out what was going on in that comic. It had nothing to do with the story being the too hard for movie-going audiences to understand. It was dull for everyone to understand, movies and comic fans. So the interesting difference, I think, between the MCU audience, where they deserve some credit, and the comic audience is the movie audience will very quickly nope out of a movie if it sucks. Whereas the comic audience is more likely to continue to collect it because they can't break the run, or complain about it because that's what comic people do, as opposed to simply say, you know what, this sucks, I'm not going to see this. And in that respect, maybe the MCU movie audience is a little bit smarter. I don't know. Anyway, great question. Thank you very much for the mail. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for listening.